Carlos picked up his forehand very quickly from a young age. I could tell you about countless drills we did, but Carlos learned them very fast. And honestly, just with his forehand, he kept working on it almost without me having to say anything. I only had to keep an eye on two things. One of them was his grip. At these ages, you really have to pay close attention to grips and stop them from time to time when you think the grip isn't right. He would sometimes let it slip. I used to draw the grip on his hand with a pen so he would have a reference. A grip that's off will, in the future, result in a poorly executed shot and won't allow for as much progress as a child with a good grip. What I did to keep him from losing the grip was to draw it for him. So I would carefully draw something like a distinct U shape directly onto his hand, and that particular mark would then permanently stay there, clearly visible, so that at some crucial point in time, when he eventually hit the ball with precision and force, he would realize that this was the correct grip. At the same time, I paid a lot of attention to shoulder rotation. Carlos rotated very well as a child and turned very well, the shoulders moving the racket very well. That's something I've never seen at such a young age. Normally, they open up like this. That's what I had to pay attention to. It was one of the keys to why Carlos generated so much power, thanks to that shoulder rotation. That shoulder rotation really helped him with rotation and gave him a big boost, similar to a short putter or a discus thrower. If you notice, in all these sports, rotation is used a lot. Carlos aimed very well with his left shoulder and then finished with his right, directing the ball where he wanted. It's fundamental. Carlos, even today, as you can see, is one of those players who takes the racket back very well so he can hit and then recover it again. He always hit at the contact point out in front, and his wrist executed the shot, the kick, with great ease, just as we see today. That made his hand speed, the speed of his forehand motion, greater than that of other players. He emphasized a lot that the racket was not a toy. We had to be very focused on that. When Carlos hit the ball, he wanted him to quickly grab the racket with the other hand, and once again, position the racket facing forward. This was going to help him a lot in preparing for one shot or another. Many times after hitting the ball, you could see him playing around with his hand with the racket, and that was something that needed to be corrected. You have to grab the racket quickly and be ready for the next shot. Why? Because what I wanted was to prepare him for what happens now, for the future. Very fast balls, where you have to be very alert and execute a forehand or backhand. We will definitely need that. I'm not going to tell you how to prepare a forehand or how to get ready for a shot, and so on, because in the end, everyone has explained that, and we all know how it is. I had the advantage that Carlos learned very quickly. Everything I told him or showed him, he would do. That's not normal. He was a very skilled player, technically perfect, and that made my job easier. But it's a movement that can be worked on, and in the end, you can also manage to do it very well. You just have to pay attention, have a good grip, make contact in front, and know how to move your hand well. It's important to know how to move your wrist properly. Drop your hand below the ball to hit well in front, and then execute the movement correctly. It's a shot that can be practiced like any other. There's no problem at all. What happened in my case is that for Carlos, it was very easy, and he practically learned it on his own. Well, Carlos, as you can see, when he hits, he leaves his hand very relaxed at the end after hitting and sort of flicks his wrist. It's another tool, another shot that makes the hit even stronger. He adds a technical gesture, which is a wrist movement, to give the ball a final touch, so that it gets more spin and, above all, more power. I didn't teach him that. He learned it on his own. What he was looking for, in the end, was to hit the ball, and by experimenting with different ways of striking it himself, he started using that wrist movement and saw that it worked for him and generated more power. What I really did was just pay attention to his grip and how he prepared his arm. He did everything else on his own, without me having to say anything. And when he did it right, there was no problem. I let him be, let him keep going, and since it was working for him, all he had to do was keep practicing.